Hello and welcome to Fireside Fairytales. My name is Rory and you're watching Varietal Literature's YouTube page, a cozy little corner of the internet for narrative. And if you are here for the first time, you should know that if you're watching live, there is a live chat that's already grown a little crop of potatoes because I started a bit late here. And so if you want to join in and talk about the stories there, go right ahead. They're already chatting up things, and I'll say hello in a moment. But if you're not watching this live, then down in the description below, there will be timestamps. Pardon me. And you can click on those timestamps to go to whatever story interests you the most. If you're interested in the story on the thumbnail, about the three ants, it is our second story. Potentially our last story. We'll see how the time works out. I have three prepared, but on the assumption that one of them might be read next week because the third one's pretty long. So we'll see where we get to. Right. Hira says, I see the crowns are still here in chat. Unfortunately, as I've learned, I can't turn them off. I can turn them off in a way that I don't see them, but I can't make it so you don't see them. Which is frustrating because I hate them. I'm glad to hear, though, Hira, that your mother is recovering, although I'm sorry to hear that she's in pain. And I see Lizzie Rose is in the chat. People are already guessing at the ants. No points for guessing. We have read a story this style before. We haven't read this version of it, but we have read a version of this same sort of format of story, or cycle, if you will. This one has a couple of changes. I think it's just a little better put together overall. I see GS was asking about it too. Uncle Kitty's in chat. Good to see you, Uncle Kitty. Thank you for your comment earlier last week. Jumpstore says, I hope our Norse bear isn't roasting in the summer heat tonight. It's still hot, but it's nowhere near as hot as it was last week. Though, next week's supposed to be another heat wave. We'll see how that goes. I'll do my best. Anyhow, let's get to some stories because, as I said, it's still warm here. I don't really have much of an introduction here. Jumpstore says, some women are such, sounds like an answer to the question. That's interesting. I didn't think about that. That's true. It is an answer to a question that is proposed in the story, but it's a different question. Lizzie Rose says, I'm getting evaluated for neurodivergence this weekend. That'll be interesting. Hopefully it's liberating more than anything. I'm going to say that folklore circles has a lot of neurodivergence. I'll leave it at that. That's my unofficial assessment. All right. We're going to read three tales tonight. This is our continuing efforts to take the Simon Roy Hughes translations of Asbjornsen and Moe. I don't have the books in hand. How terrible am I? I can't reach them either right now without getting up. Anyways, Asbjornsen and Mo is the complete collection from Simon Roy Hughes. I will have a link in the description below when the video is no longer live. Well, there is a link in the description below, actually, but there a pinned comment below is what I meant to say. Simon Roy Hughes is a translator of Norwegian folklore, and the kings of Norwegian folklore collecting were Asbjornsen and Mo. We've talked about them a lot on this channel before because they are the Grimm brothers of Norwegian folklore, equally prolific and impactful, frankly. The collection is a 3-book collection. It is very thick. I imagine we will be reading stories from it for a very long time. And at the grace of Simon Roy Hughes, who gives me permission to read his translations, even though they are under copyright. But of course, it's his copyright. But I mention that in case you want to read it on your own somewhere else. You should know these are not, like a lot of things I read, in the public domain right now. The stories themselves are, the translation is not. Anyhow, the Asbjornsen and Mo collection, we've been through, I think, about 9 or 10 stories in it. We've read a lot of stories from it before because he was posting stories up on the Patreon when I was supporting that. But now the book is out. You can buy it. You can buy it digitally. You can buy it annotated or not. That's what the links in the pinned comment will be. You should. But we're going to keep reading our stories. That's the gist of it. I'm working my way. Asbjornsen and Mo collected these folkloric stories from the countryside and put them in print. Simon Roy Hughes translated those to English for me. And now I'm freeing them out of the book and back into the oral tradition as best I can. Not that I think there's any great violence to writing them down, but I do think that these stories deserve to be out in the oral tradition. All right. I'm going to have a drink of water. And we're going to read through. Each of these stories is a pretty meaty story, so you're in for some good times tonight. And also Simon Roy Hughes is just a good writer. I mean, he's a translator, but that isn't a form of writing, to be honest. You can tell when you read a lot of different translations of the same basic stories from the same collector. You can see how much it isn't a creative exercise among any. Uncle Kitty says no Zevia. There's a Zevia there if I need it, but we will try to avoid it. Jumpstore says, gasp, Rory is drinking water. I do actually drink a lot of water. I guess I don't really on the stream, do I? Our first tale of the night comes to us from the Asbjornsen and Mo complete collection. That's why I should have the book in front of me. Volume 1 from Simon Roy Hughes, translated by Simon Roy Hughes. A recent collection you can purchase using the link in the pinned comment below. And you absolutely should. Independently published and translated by Simon Roy Hughes. This story is called Some Women Are Such. There was once upon a time a man and a wife who wanted to sow, but they had no seed grain nor any money to buy some. They had a single cow which the man could take to town and sell to get some money for seed corn. But when it came to it, his wife dared not let her husband go, for she was afraid he would drink up the money. So she took the cow with her, and took with her a hen too. Close by the town, she met a butcher. "Will you sell the cow, mother?" he asked. "Certainly I shall do so," she said. "What do you want for it, then?" "I suppose I want a mark for the cow, but the hen you may have for $10, she said. "Well, I have no use for the hen," he replied. and you'll get rid of it when you come to the town, but I shall give you a mark for the cow." So she sold the cow and took her mark. And there was no one in the town, but there was no one in the town who would give $10 for a dry, scabby hen. So she went back to the butcher and said, "I cannot get rid of the hen, father. You must take it too, you who took the cow." "We shall come to an agreement," said the butcher, and he asked her to sit at the table and then served her food, and poured her so much brandy that she grew drunk and lost her sense and composure. And while she was sleeping it off, the butcher dipped her in a barrel of pitch and laid her in a heap of feathers. This story is not very friendly to women. I will say that. It's a bit of a jerk story. When she awoke, she was feathered all over and began to wonder, "Is it me? Or is it not me? No, it can never be me. It must be a great strange bird. But what shall I do to find out whether it is me or not me? Well, now I know if the calves lick me and the dog doesn't bark at me when I get home, then it is me." Well, the dog had never before seen such a beast, and so it began to bark, bark, bark greatly, as if there were both thieves and rascals on the farm. "No, it certainly can't be me," she said, and when she went into the barn, the calves wouldn't lick her, for they smelt the pitch. "No, it can't be me. It must be a strange bird," she said, and then she climbed up onto the roof of the stable, which we've talked about before, but it's like a little storehouse in Norway. Began to flap her arms as if they were wings and tried to fly into the air. Everyone's very shocked about the dark feathering, which is fair. It's an objectively insane thing to do. When her husband saw this, he came out with his rifle and began to aim. "Oh, don't shoot! Don't shoot!" shouted his wife. "It's me!" "If it is you," said her husband, "then don't stand there like a goat, but come down and give a true account of yourself." So she climbed down again, then, but she didn't have a single shilling, for in her drunkenness she had thrown away the mark she had received from the butcher. And there he is, a picture of him in sort of black and white line drawing, aiming a rifle at the feathered wife on the roof. Gia says, "Man, this is weird. You haven't even heard anything yet." This gets weirder. When her husband heard this, he said, "You are more than once more madder than you ever been." He grew so angry that he wanted to leave everything altogether and never come back unless he met 3 more women who were just as mad. I feel I never do this, but I feel like I'm compelled to help you track what the story has been so far, because it's so bonkers, it is at times hard to follow. This woman tried to sell a cow and a chicken. She couldn't sell the chicken, so she went back to the butcher. She sold the cow, and he bought that chicken, or said he would negotiate, got her drunk, stole the money he paid for the cow, dipped her in pitch, and feathered her. When she woke up, she thought she was a bird, or at least was uncertain. So she went back to her farm, climbed on the roof, after her dogs and cows didn't recognize her. And her husband said that this is so insane, the things that she's done, that he's going to leave, unless he can find 3 other women who are this insane. That's the premise so far. Now, when he had come down a distance on the road, he saw a woman who ran out and in of a newly built cabin with an empty sieve. Each time she ran in, she threw her apron over the sieve as if she had something in it, then turned it out onto the floor back in the hut. "Why do you do this, mother?" he asked. "Oh, I only want to carry in a little sunshine," replied the woman. "But I don't know how it is. When I'm outside, I have the sunshine in the sieve. But when I come in, I've lost it again. When I was in my old cabin, I had enough sunshine even though I never carried it even a tiny portion. If only someone could bring me some sunshine, I would give him $300. $300. Getting a lot of comments in the chat about this story. "Do you have an axe?" said the man. "Then I shall manage to bring you some sunshine." He received an axe and chopped out some window holes, for the carpenters had forgotten that. Straight away, the sunshine came in. Then he got his $300. "There was one," thought the man, as he set off on his way again. After a while, he came to a house where there was a terrible howling and screaming. And he went inside and saw a woman striking her husband on his head with a wooden washing beetle. He had pulled a shirt without a neck hole over his head. "Do you want to beat your husband to death, mother?" he asked. "No," she said, "I just want a neck hole in this shirt." And the man screamed and carried on and said, "God bless and improve the one who can put on a new shirt. If someone could teach my wife to put a neck hole in a shirt in a different manner, then I would gladly give him $300. Like, it is a funny story. I think it's aware of its humor, by the way. I don't think this is just some historical anachronism. It's meant to be absurdist funny. "That will soon be done. Just give me a pair of scissors," said the other, and he got a pair of scissors and cut a hole and then left with his money. "There was the second," he said to himself. At great length he came to a farm, and there he thought he would rest a while and went in. "Where are you from, father?" asked the woman. "I am from Ringerike," he said. "Oh no, are you really from Himmerik?" Which is heaven. She's misheard him. So you know Purr the Second, which we've read stories about Purr the Second, actually. "My blessed husband, then?" The wife had been married 3 times. The first and the last had been bad. She thought, therefore, that the second had been blessed, for he had been a kind man. "Yes, I know him, of course," said he who was a wandering. "How does he fare now, then?" asked the wife. "Oh, it is quite embarrassing," said he from Ringerike. "He wanders from farm to farm and has no food nor clothes on his body. Money there is now no talk of." "Oh, comfort me for him, then," cried the woman. "He has no need to go so modestly. He who left so much behind. There is a big loft here full of his clothes. A large chest of money stands here, too. If you want to take it with you, then you shall have a horse and a cart to drive with. He can have the horse, and he can sit on the cart, and drive from farm to farm. He needn't walk." And the one from Ringerike received a whole cartload of clothes, and a chest full of gleaming silver money, and as much food and drink as he wanted, and then he drove on his way. "There was the third," he said to himself, but the wife's third husband was plowing over in the field, and when he saw a stranger traveling off with a horse and tools, he went home and asked his wife who was going off with the blue horse. "Oh, him," she said. "That was a man from heaven. He said that Purr the Second, my blessed husband, fared badly, that he was going from farm to farm there with neither clothes nor money. So I sent with him all these clothes that were hanging behind after him, and the old money chest full of silver dollars." Well, the man soon understood how things stood. He saddled a horse and flew off at full gallop. and it wasn't long before he lay tight behind he who sat in the cart. Now, when the other noticed, he drove the horse and cart into the thicket and snatched out a fistful of horsehair from the horse. And then he ran up the bank, and there he tied the horsehair fast to a birch and lay beneath it, glaring and staring up into the clouds. The good thing I can say about this is at no point do I believe my audience knows what I'm going to say next, which is an interesting feeling as a storyteller. No, 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 he said as if to himself when Purr the Third came riding up. No, no, I've never seen anything so strange. No, I've never seen the like. Purr stood looking at him for a while and wondered if he'd lost his mind. Or what might this be? At length he asked him, Why are you lying there looking at it? What are you lying there looking at? No, I've never seen the like, said the other. There went up into the sky on a blue horse. Here you can see its hair hanging on this birch. And up there in the clouds you can see the blue horse. Purr looked at the clouds, and from the clouds to him, and said, I see nothing but horsehair in the birch. No, you can see it from where you stand, of course, said the other. But come here and lie down and stare up, but don't take your eyes off the clouds. Well, Purr the Third lay, glaring up into the sky until his eyes ran with water. The one from Ringerike took his horse, mounted it, and rode off with both it and the cartload. And when the cart began to rumble on the road, Purr shot up, but he was so confounded that the other was leaving with his horse that he didn't think to run after him before it was too late. And now he was quite flustered when he came home to his wife. But when she asked what he'd done with his horse, he said, I gave it to Purr the Second too, I did, for I thought it unworthy to be sitting on a cart and rattling from farm to farm, and now he can sell the cart and buy himself a carriage to drive in. I thank you for that. Never did I think that you were such a kind man, said his wife. When he now came home, he who had gathered together the $600 and the cartload of clothes and money, he saw that all the fields had been plowed and sown. The first thing he asked his wife about, that was where she had got the seed grain from. Oh, she said, I've always heard that he who sows, he reaps. So I sowed the salt from the folk from the northern valleys left here when they went traveling. If only there would be some rain soon, then I might shoot up again. Mad you are, and mad you shall remain for as long as you live, said the man. But it makes no difference, for the others are no wiser than you. There you go. An utterly insane story whose only premise is that women are stupid. It's not a friendly story in any way. I don't endorse it. Everyone has theories ranging from drugs to brain damage going in chat. It's a story you'll sit and think on and go, I still don't really know what happened. Lizzie Rose just says, wow. And GS says, holy smokes. Yeah, it's bonkers. The next one isn't super friendly either, to be honest. Yeah, Jump Store, true. Yeah. I guess I should clarify that for those who don't know, salting the earth will ruin your farm. Jumpstart notes that she sowed the salt, so she not only wasted the salt, but she probably made that soil infertile. Probably. That is the implication. And then he can't get mad because he's like, well, there's no better than you. Which is such a dickhead way to end the story. Uncle Kitty says, I'm thinking the writer had an awkward divorce. Yeah, it has real, like, boomers complaining about their wives at lunch vibes. It's also a shockingly long story. I mean, I knew it was a long story, but I didn't think it was going to take that long. Now that I look at the time, my God. It does look like we'll basically just tell you 2 stories that are super insulting to women and then be done, which I don't feel great about, to be honest. The 3rd story was less that way. Jumpstore says, I grew up on a farm. I didn't know that, Jumpstore. I knew that for witchery. Did everyone in my chat grow up on a farm? I guess that would make some kind of sense if that were true. We're going to the Zevia before we get to the 3 ants. Zevia, the last thing you grab before nothing. Yeah, and I should say, in case anybody feels like they need to dig out some deeper meaning in it, there's no deeper meaning in it. I've read that story like 3 or 4 times now. It's part of the process of planning out these streams. It's just complaining about women being dumb. That's the whole story. You know, it is almost a bit unfortunate that that's what it is, because if you just took it as some people are really stupid, it's a pretty funny story. Jumpstore says it was a private farm. Uncle Kitty says, Zevia, we don't make divorce any easier. Maybe the cause of it, too. All right. From absurdist comedy to exactly what you think this story is going to be. Our next tale is called The 3 Aunts. It also comes to us from Asbjornsen and Moe's complete collection. I have the annotated version here, translated by Simon Roy Hughes, who you can buy this collection from down in the pinned comment below, and you should, because it is an excellent and incredibly complete, more than any other version that I know of, other than maybe the original language version, but I think it actually includes some things that the original language version did not. Truly complete, 3 volumes from Simon Roy Hughes, independently translated and published. You should. And this story is also rather mean to women. I'm sorry. There was once upon a time a poor man who lived in a cabin far away in the forest, and he lived off what he could shoot. He had an only daughter, and she was both beautiful and fine. As her mother was dead and the girl was half grown, she said that she would go away to folk, so that she could learn to earn her keep too. Yes, my daughter, said her father, you may not have learned more from me than to pluck a bird and roast it, but you must try to earn your keep anyway. So the girl went out to ask to go into service, and when she had walked for a while, she came to the king's farm. There she stayed, and the queen thought so well of her that the other servant girls simply grew envious of her. They found it good to tell the queen that the girl had said she was good to spin a pound of flax in 24 hours. For the queen made such a fuss of all manner of handiwork. This is one of my favorite footnotes. It's from Simon Roy Hughes on what that meant. So 24 hours, a pound of flax woven into like thread. And then in the footnote it says, pound, depending on the kind of pound intended, a measure, sorry, I gotta switch to the other page here, equivalent to anything between 0.46 kilograms and 159 kilograms. What a swing.
Well, if you have said it, then you must do it, said the queen, but you may have a little longer time.
Well, the poor girl dared not tell her that she'd never spun before, but merely asked for a chamber to herself. This she got, and they carried both spinning wheel and flax up to it. There she sat, miserable and weeping, not knowing what to do. She fiddled with the spinning wheel and turned and spun it, and did not know how she would use it. And she'd never even seen a spinning wheel. But as she sat there, an old wife came into her.
"What is wrong with you, my child?" she said. "Oh," replied the girl, "it will do no good to tell you. You cannot help me anyway." "No one can know that," said the wife. "Maybe I can help you in any matter."
Well, I can at least tell her, thought the girl, and so she told her that the other servant girls had said that she was good to spin a pound of flax in 24 hours.
"And I, poor unfortunate," she said, "have never in all my days seen a spinning wheel, much less spun so much in a day." "Well, it makes no difference, child," said the wife. "If you will call me aunt on your day of honor, then I shall spin for you. You may go away and lie down to sleep."
Yes, the girl would like that, and went away to bed. In the morning, when she awoke, all the flax lay spun on the table, and it looked so nice and fine that no one had seen such beautifully even yarn. The queen was so pleased with the fine yarn she received, and held the girl even dearer than before. But the others grew even more envious of her for this, and so they decided to tell the queen that she had now said that she was good to weave the yarn she had spun in 24 hours. The queen said again that had she said it, then she should do it. And if it did not take exactly 24 hours, then she could make her day a little longer. Well, the girl did not say no now either, but asked for a chamber to herself, and she would try. There she sat again, weeping and complaining, and she knew not what she should do. Then came in an old wife again, asking, "What is wrong with you, my child?" The girl would not out with it at first, but she eventually told her what she was so sorrowful for.
Well," replied the wife, "no matter. If you will call me aunt on your day of honor, I shall weave for you, so you may go away and lie down to sleep."
And the girl did not need to be asked twice, but went directly to bed. And when she awoke, the bundle lay on the table, woven as neatly and as densely as it could possibly have ever been woven. She took the bundle and went with it down to the queen, who was pleased with the beautiful weave she received, and held the girl even dearer than before. But the others grew even more envious of her, and thought nothing other than what they might contrive next. So finally they told the queen that she had now said that she was good to sew the bundle of weaving into shirts in 24 hours. Which, by the way, I think sounds a lot more manageable than the other two, if you know anything about these processes. Well, things went the same as before. The girl dared not say that she could not sew, but went up to a chamber by herself and sat there weeping and at her wits' end. But then there came again an old wife, who promised to sew for her if only she would call her aunt on her day of honor. This the girl promised more than willingly, and then she did what the wife said. She went away to lie down to sleep, In the morning when she awoke, she found the bundles of sewn shirts lying on the table. Such beautiful needlework had no one seen. And the shirts had names and were completely finished. When the queen saw the work, she was so pleased with the needlework that she clapped her hands together. For such beautiful needlework have I neither owned nor seen, she would say. And after that, she held the girl as dear as her own child. Apparently, that's how you gain the favor of a queen, I guess. Lizzie Rose says, have you tried to sew something by hand? I have. I think I could do this more than any of the other options. Believe it or not, I did a lot of sewing. If you want the prince, then you may have him, she said to the girl, for you will never have to send out anything. You can sew and spin and weave it all yourself. As the girl was so beautiful, and the prince thought so well of her, there was soon a wedding. But as the prince had sat down the wedding table together with her, an ugly old woman with a long nose, it was certainly 3 ells long, came in, which is one of the pictures on the thumbnail, but we will see this later in the story as well. Then the bride stood up and curtsied and said, "Good day, aunt." Is that an aunt of my bride?" said the prince. Yes, she was that. Well, she'd better sit at the table then, said the prince, but both he and the others thought it terrible to sit at a table with her. And just like that, there came in an ugly old woman again. She had a backside so fat and broad, like I said, this story is mean, that she only just managed to squeeze herself through the door. Straight away, the bride rose and greeted her. "Good day, aunt." And the prince asked again if that was the aunt of his bride. Both replied yes. And the prince said that since it was, then she should sit at the table too. But she hardly sat down before there again came an ugly old woman with eyes as big as plates, and so red and runny that it was horrible to see. And the bride rose again and greeted her. "Good day, aunt." And the prince asked her also to sit at the table. He was not pleased, though, and thought to himself, "God, help me, what aunts my bride has." And there's the picture of them. There's her with the very long nose and a sort of black and white pen drawing. So long it reaches down to the floor. Also, for some reason, it has little roots off it, so it looks a bit like a parsnip or a freshly picked carrot. And then there's the woman squeezing her large behind through the door. And then there's the one with the almost like a classic like 1950s alien kind of face, really big eyes with a narrow chin and a wrinkled forehead, in a bonnet and dress coming through the door. Which one's your spirit animal, chat? I think I would go with the big butt. That's my spirit animal, sitting around and getting a big butt. When he had sat a little, he could not help himself, but asked, "But how in all the world can it be that my bride, who is so beautiful, can have such horrible, disfigured aunts?" "I shan't tell you," said the first. "I was just as beautiful as your bride when I was her age. But I've gotten such a long nose from constantly sitting all the time, teasing and nodding from the spinning, so that my nose has stretched until it is as you now see it." "And I," said the second, "from the time I was young, I have sat scooting back and forth on the loom bench,
From this my backside has grown and swollen, you see.
And from the third said,
From the time I was quite small, have I sat, staring and sewing, night and day. From this my eyes have grown so horrible and red, and now I do not know what to do with them any longer.
said the prince. It's a good thing I got to know this, for if folk can grow so horrible and ugly from it, then my bride shall never spin nor weave nor sew for the rest of her days. Which is a premise we've seen before, except the version of the story that we've seen before, one of them had a very long lip from doing this. So I guess there's some variations of it. Uncle Kitty says why she only weighs a mere 2 pounds. Very well done. Jumpstore says definitely bug eyes. Gia says I don't have a long nose, so it narrows it down. Workers' compensation is needed for these ladies, indeed. Yeah. Wow, those were long stories. We'll read The Widow's Son next week, unless it's super hot again, and then we'll read it in 2 weeks. Because it is long. I would say it would take us probably another 30 minutes to read, and I don't have that much time. But yeah, we'll come back and we'll do that next time. I'm glad that you guys enjoyed the stories. They are bonkers. And mean-spirited and all of those sorts of things. But I think at least one thing I'll say, while their targets are obviously less than friendly, I think it does show that a lot of folklore was sort of entertainment for taverns, right? Like, maybe not even taverns, but, you know, drunken adults, not kids. These aren't kids' stories. These wouldn't be that relatable to most kids. These are entertainment, you know. I think probably the best context I can offer, which we've talked about before, is that, you know, the German spinning rooms, the idea that you would sit there until late at night in the winter and they'd be spinning and everybody would be sort of drinking and hanging out and telling stories, and that was a lot of it. But you know, the point of a lot of like folklore is, in my opinion, that it carries on sort of structures and ideas that maybe are somewhat incomplete. So if you have heard these stories and you're like, it would be funnier if it was this way, well, folklore invites you to make your own versions. If anything, I don't want to speak for my translators, but I do know for sure Jürgen Hubert, one of his motivations was, who does our German translations, was that people would keep doing it, would take these stories that he translates and make new versions of them. Something I have done, I've yet to publish. There's one I did on one of Jürgen Hubert's stories, and I've just felt insecure about it for 2 years. At some point, I'll put it out somewhere. But, yeah. So if you don't like the targets of these stories, but you do like the structure of the joke, then go write your own version. I mean that. And, of course, buy Esbjörnson and Moe's collection from Simon Roy Hughes by clicking on the pinned comment down below when this video is no longer live, because he deserves it. He put a lot of work into this over many years, and now the whole collection is in English in a way that it's never been before, and as you can see, they're very entertaining if you like tales and stories and are a nerd for narrative like me. So for the rest of you, if you were in the chat today, it was really good to see you, and thanks for coming and chatting with me and hanging out and talking about folklore. It's always fun. If you were lurking, that's fine. I'm glad to have you lurk. I hope you have fun. If you were lurking while doing creative enterprises, let me know. I'm always happy to know. Somebody told me a few weeks ago that they painted while I did this, and I thought that was super cool. Watercolors, specifically. Jumpstore says, I appreciate a good roasting, so as a woman, I was not offended by these tales. I think there's a context, but there are... actually, I've made this point before. You don't find too many stories where it's like women roasting men, but where you do tend to find them is in the Scottish collections, which makes perfect sense to me. GS says we will do ugly uncles next week. Indeed. All right, that's enough of me babbling. I'm going to go turn my air conditioning on. Thank you very much for hanging out with me today. I will keep the fire going. You folks have a good sleep.